Where's Snapdragon? I want a rematch. You're not the original. As the taco lady put it years ago, upgrade. Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. We're taking a look at another Earthrise toy. Possibly one of the most anticipated toys for the Earthrise line. We have Snapdragon. Snapdragon, of course, is one of the earliest ones for the Earthrise to get something of a confirmation when his Headmaster HorrorCon partner Apeface was released for the Siege toy line. The fandom was definitely up in arms at wanting to see his partner Snapdragon get made. And so Snapdragon was confirmed for an eventual release, and we have gotten him for Earthrise. From what I'm understanding from a fair amount of my friends in the community, it's sounding like finding Snapdragons with uncrushed boxes is becoming quite a chore. Of course, I don't know how true this is. I'm just going by what my friends have told me. I only found this one, and his box, as you saw there in the opening, it was undamaged. I guess I should count my blessings that I got lucky on that respects. And of course, as with usual here, when we're reviewing these new versions, we have to have him stood next to his Generation 1 counterpart. As you can see, he is a slight shade shorter than the original. But you can definitely tell by the look, the two toys definitely are considerably different. As we can see noticeably here on the Earthrise Snapdragon, the cockpit for the jet mode has been shifted more to his legs, whereas you can see the nose cone for it sticking out behind Snapdragon's back on the G1 version. In the G1 continuity, Snapdragon functioned as an interceptor. He was a Headmaster HorrorCon, which meant that he was a Headmaster and a triple changer whose alternate modes included a jet mode and a creature mode. Hence, that's why they were called HorrorCons. Despite the fact that when you say HorrorCon to most people, they think of a convention where you would meet Robert Englund or Elvira. As a Headmaster, Snapdragon is bonded to a character named Krunk, who is the bodyguard to Lord Zarek on Nebulon, which of course Lord Zarek is bonded to Scorponok, so that effectively makes Snapdragon the bodyguard to Scorponok. And yes, Scorponok is the Titan that was released for Earthrise, so it's also fitting that we got Snapdragon. And for the record, yes, I do have Scorponok in Earthrise, but I don't know how soon I'll get around to reviewing him. He's a pretty big toy, and the pandemic does make reviews a little difficult to do on some of the bigger toys, but we will get to him before the year's out. I can assure you of that, my fans. At any rate, let's look at the articulation between the two toys. G1 Snapdragon, his articulation for his upper body was in his arms. You could rotate the arm all the way around. If he doesn't have his gun in his hand, it does go all the way around. He does have a joint at his hip, so you could bring his leg up 90 degrees, and you can bend him at the knee in both the joint areas 90 degrees. You can bend there and right there. And that was pretty much the pinnacle of his articulation. Stay standing up, Snapdragon. But as you can also see, it's difficult to get him to stay balanced. For Earthrise Snapdragon, he's got considerably more. The headmaster partner is on a ball joint, so you are able to rotate the head from side to side, but it doesn't really move too well for up and down due to the size. His arms can be raised out only about so far, but his arms do rotate at the shoulder all the way around. He does have a joint at his elbow, so you can bend his arms about 90 degrees. The size of the forearms does get in the way a bit. And he does feature some slight swivel in the wrist. So he does have a slight bit of battle grip. But again, the kibble and his forearms are so large, it's very difficult to accomplish anything with that. He does have a swivel at the hip, so he can be twisted at the hips. We can spread his legs apart about so far, so he can do a full splits. He does have a joint at his thigh, so you can turn his legs at the thigh. You can raise his leg at the hip 90 degrees and bend at the knee 90 degrees. So he does have a fair amount of range of motion. It's just a disappointment that some of his arm articulation is only slightly better than his G1 counterpart. Now let's take a look at some of Snapdragon's accessories here. We'll start off with taking a look at his gun. Let's get him out of the way a bit so we can see the gun. He does have two of these purple rifles. They do bear some resemblance to his G1 rifle. Similar design at least, but in something different. As I said, he has two of them. And then, of course, lastly, we also have his head. While the instructions don't mention his name at all, we can surmise that this is Crunk, unless they've changed the name. But the one nice thing about Crunk this time around is that the dinosaur teeth here on the legs are not nearly as sharp as they were on the Generation 1 version. Crunk also has some small articulation. His head can be turned left to right very easily. And it does rock up and down a bit, so it is on a ball joint. It's just unfortunately when he's attached to Snapdragon, he can't use it very well. He can raise his arms up to his shoulders like that. You can bend his leg at the hip 90 degrees, and he can bend at the knee 90 degrees. We're going to go ahead and put him in a seated position. With his legs stretched out all the way straight like that. That way we can use him when we transform the toy. Alright, we're going to start transforming Snapdragon. Let's adjust the light here. That's a little better. To transform him into his jet mode, of course, as you can see, we need to remove all the accessories. We'll turn him around, and you're going to push his feet downward so that his feet come out here at the back. And then next, you're going to fold out from the back of his leg, you're going to fold out the cockpit halves, and then push them flattish against the leg. You can see here, it will allow the foot to rest on the underside of the cockpit. Believe it or not, he's actually not that difficult to transform as compared to some of the other triple changers that have been put out in the modern toy line. Of course, if you want the landing gear down, right now is the time to fold out the landing gear. Then you're going to take his legs, you'll rotate them at the thigh, so that the cockpit is now facing you, and then you will press his legs together, like so, so they're all snug together. And now here we're going to reach to his back, and we're going to lift this section up, so that it detaches. And then we go and fold it down onto the midsection, snapping it into place. And we're going to rotate the arms backwards so that the fists are pointing out the other way. You rotate the bicep around so that this hole here on the forearm will eventually be turned and lined up with this post right here on the side. And you just connect them together. Just exactly like that. And then next you will fold down the side wings. Then of course underneath the wings you will attach the guns. And there you have it. Snapdragon is in his plane mode. Of course, if you've got some good fingernails, you just pop open the cockpit here. Taking a look inside this cockpit. We got some nice molded in and painted controls in there, so that's nice. And you would just stick Crunk in there, like that. And then close it up. And of course, let's do a side-by-side comparison with the Generation 1 version. As you can see, it does take a lot of its cues from the original, even with having the actual cockpit where you insert the figure somewhat further back from the real cockpit in the front of the plane. It's always been a weird stylized choice. And of course the guns hang underneath, but of course on the G1 version they're attached to the fuselage, whereas on the modern one they're on the wings. And for those of you who watched the G1 video, you'll know these blue fins were removable. Here on the modern version, they are attached. So be very cautious when storing this toy, because as you can see, they are on very thin plastic, and I can easily see these things getting broken on this toy further down the line. Okay, now to turn the plane into the other mode, first thing you would do, of course, is remove Crunk from the cockpit and take the guns off. You'll also want to fold up the landing gear because we won't need it for this mode. We start by popping the engines of the plane free, like that. And we're going to rotate them so they point upwards, and of course fold in the wings like so. But you're also going to come here to the purple engines, and we're going to fold them inward so that they form the feet. Then, of course, we reach up here to this piece right here. We will fold it up, and then you will fold out the entirety of the dinosaur head. Just fold it all the way straight out, and then you close the hatch that he was in. Next, we're going to pop this section loose a bit. Hold on a second while I check things. And after we've gotten that popped up, we just simply take this portion of the nose here on the plane, and you just bend it outward like that. And we're going to turn him around. In this section where the robot's chest is, should be able to work that section to pop up free. So that way here we can rotate out the dinosaur arms. Just like that. And of course fold them outward. And then you're going to bring the robot chest, and it comes down here and attaches near the tail. And then, of course, we will reattach on the legs here. There's a black piece of plastic that the arms and legs are attached to. You just fold that up like so to make sure it's in position as you lock both the chest and back plate into position. Then now you need Krunk in a seating position exactly like this, because unlike for Apeface, Snapdragon's partner goes in under the head. And of course what you got to do is fasten Krunk's head into that little connector inside the mouth of the dinosaur. This takes a little bit of effort. I find it's easier to have Krunk in a standing position, because that gives you a little more room to hold him. So you can work him in. Then once he's in and secure, then you can gently bend his legs to form the lower jaw. And then once you've got him in, you just adjust the head back down onto the neck. And then, of course, to finish him off, you attach the guns onto his backside. And there you have Snapdragon's dinosaur mode, which I've got to say still looks kind of silly, but then again, that's the G1 version, and frankly the G1 version just looks stupid. Especially since, really, most of the articulation you had was you could shift the legs on the G1 a bit. He did have articulation there at the knee, so you could bend the knee a little. And you could shift the arms, but none of it looked all that natural, especially since his head doesn't move. So on new Snapdragon, you can adjust the head at the neck in a couple of places. Of course, you can always adjust Krunk's legs so you can get the mouth to open. You do that too on the original. The dinosaur's arms can be rotated like that. And his elbows, while he can be bent, the arms can be bent upward like that. They also have a swivel, allowing the dinosaur to even have G.I. Joe battle grip. And of course, you can bend the legs at the knee a bit. And then there you have it. So, quite a considerable improvement on the original toy. So now we get down to my thoughts regarding Snapdragon. What do I think of this new one compared to the original? Well, needless to say, I like the new version somewhat better than I like the original. The original, of course, was one that I grew up with from my time, and it will always have a special place for me, even though I never had Snapdragon as a child. However, the new one beats it in every way possible. The robot mode looks pretty good. It's not as tall and imposing as the original one was, but the extra articulation does mean you can have a little more fun with it. It looks more natural in some of the different poses. The airplane mode, that may be its weakest mode when you compare the two of them side by side. The original one did look pretty sturdy and solid. The new one, it looks a little more futuristic and doesn't look quite as solid as the original, but it does pay a lot of homage to the original, so I guess I can forgive it for that. The dinosaur mode here is where the toy really shines against its original version. It has considerably more articulation, so it does look more intimidating and imposing compared to the original, which just looks weird. That's the best way to describe it. You can see it for yourself right there. It just looks weird. The new one certainly does have it beat 8 Ways from Sunday. So definitely this is one of them that I gotta give Takara and Hasbro credit. They really outdid themselves on this version. And that, of course, concludes my review of the Earthrise version of Snapdragon. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please leave me a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button to join our ranks. And ring the bell so you'll get notified when I post new content. I ask that you share this video with your friends and fellow collectors. That's what helps this channel grow. And share your thoughts about Snapdragon in the comments down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I hope everybody enjoyed Larry's return as well. And we'll say we'll catch you all later.